Welcome back, and now with the news in detail. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says it's time for the world to recognize Pakistan as an essential partner for peace in Afghanistan. The UN chief said it is now Kabul's obligation to establish peace for the refugees' safe return. More in this report.
The Secretary General of the UN and its refugee agency chief are in Pakistan to mark 4 decades of millions of Afghan refugees hosted by Pakistan. Guterres says Pakistan's treatment of millions of Afghan refugees has been recognized as a global model, but the international support has been woefully underwhelming.
We must recognize that international support for Pakistan has been minimal compared to your own national efforts. As we look to the challenges ahead, the global community must step up.
Speaking at the conference, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan said compassion overruled the country's economic challenges when it came to hosting Afghan refugees. Khan said growing global Islamophobia has limited the options of refugees fleeing death and destruction.
The refugees are suffering because they are refugees, and on top of it, they face the xenophobia in so many influential, affluent, rich countries. On top of it, we have this new phenomena after 9/11, Islamophobia. Islamophobia compounds the miseries of Muslim refugees.
Premier categorically dismissed Afghan's second Vice President Sawad Danesh's statement, who on the occasion accused Pakistan of harboring terrorists in refugees camps responsible for instability in Afghanistan. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi stressed that the world needs to step up its support for refugees in Pakistan. He did not mince words while acknowledging the cost Pakistan has had to pay.
The history of Pakistan's solidarity with Afghan refugees, which we honor today, shows that generosity has not come without cost. Hosting millions of refugees, it has an impact on local economies, on infrastructure, on services, on security, on the environment.
Later, the UN dignitaries held a joint press conference with Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. They all agreed that there is an opportunity for peace in Afghanistan, which if missed would amount to betrayal to the people of Afghanistan.
US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad says the entire world appreciates Pakistan's key role for peace in Afghanistan. He was briefing Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan during a meeting in Islamabad. The US envoy also met Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi in Islamabad and hailed Pakistan's efforts for dealing with the Afghan refugee crisis. Earlier, Khalilzad attended an international conference marking 40 years since Pakistan began hosting Afghan refugees. More in this report.
U.S. Special Envoy for Afghanistan Zalmay Khalilzad says Washington wants better ties with Pakistan. Talking at the International Refugee Conference in Islamabad, he said peace in Afghanistan will play a major role for bilateral ties. He was joined by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to the peace process. Khalilzad said the US is trying to strike a peace deal because it does not want to repeat the mistake it made in the 90s by abruptly leaving Afghanistan. The Special Envoy said it was necessary to stop looking at the country's conflict in terms of winning and losing.
One side has to win, the other side has to lose. That is not militarily feasible anymore. There has to be a political solution, and that means compromises.
He added that Afghanistan's neighbors have played a major role in the ongoing peace process and that stability in the region would open up new economic opportunities for both countries. Speaking at the conference, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Islamabad wishes to continue facilitating Afghan peace process.
The most important role has to be played by the Afghans themselves. What kind of a future do they want for themselves? Do they want to live in peace? As it was said, there is no military solution, and a political solution requires compromises. Are they willing to make those compromises? That has to be decided, and hopefully that intra-Afghan dialogue will lead to those compromises.
The foreign minister was quick to add that peace depended most on the parties in Afghanistan. According to reports, it is possible that a peace deal may be signed between Washington and the Taliban within the month.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says Pakistan is one of the most consistent and reliable contributors to the UN peacekeeping missions. Speaking at a seminar on peace and stability in Islamabad, Guterres said Pakistan plays a leading role in ensuring the success of the UN peacekeeping missions. Speaking at a seminar on peace and stability in Islamabad, Guterres said Pakistan is a leader in making peacekeeping missions successful. The UN chief paid a rich tribute to Pakistani peacekeepers who died in various UN missions. He said Pakistan has contributed 150,000 troops to the UN peacekeeping missions. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urges need to implement UN resolutions on Kashmir. He said this while meeting Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Rawalpindi. The military's media wing said matters of mutual interest and the regional security situation were discussed in the meeting. It said Guterres also discussed the Afghan peace process and refugee crisis with the Army Chief. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa said Pakistan is committed to achieving a stable, peaceful and normalized situation in the country. In Afghanistan, the Election Commission says it will release the long-delayed final presidential poll results in 3 to 4 days. The results were delayed for about 5 months over accusations of fraud. Speaking in Kabul, a spokesperson for the election body said the vote recount and audit process has been completed. In December, the commission announced incumbent President Ashraf Ghani won a slim majority in the 28th September poll. His closest rival, Abdullah, alleged vote rigging, forcing a recount. The delay has left Afghanistan facing a political crisis just as the US seeks a peace deal with the Taliban. India has once again rejected UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' offer to mediate between Delhi and Islamabad on the Kashmir issue. Speaking in Islamabad yesterday, Guterres said he is ready to help if both the countries agree to mediation. India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the issue is bilateral and there is no role or scope for third-party mediation. In a meeting with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Guterres called on India to respect human rights in the valley. Foreign Minister Qureshi conveyed Pakistan's deep concern over the curfew and the communications blockade in the valley. New Delhi has denied British parliamentarian and the chair of the all-party parliamentary group for Kashmir, Debbie Abraham's entry into the occupied Kashmir. Strongly criticizing the BJP government's move, the MP said India treated her like a criminal and took her to the deportee cell. Indian authorities told the lawmaker that her visa, valid for October 2020, has been rejected. Abraham said she tried to ask the reason for her visa's rejection and if she could get a visa on arrival, but no one answered her. The MP said she had written to the Indian envoy in the UK expressing concern over the Article 370 move. An Indian court has set the date for the execution of 4 convicts in the brutal 2012 Delhi gang rape case. The 4 men convicted of the rape and murder of the 23-year-old paramedic will be hanged on 3rd of March. This is the 3rd black warrant issued by the court in this case. The victim's mother, Asha Devi, said she hoped the convicts will finally be hanged on the set date. She was referring to multiple delayed mercy petitions and a juvenile petition leading to the execution date being pushed ahead twice. These petitions were largely seen as delay tactics. The 2012 rape and murder of the 23-year-old physiotherapy student on the moving bus shocked India. The 4 men were convicted in 2013 and were handed death sentences by a Delhi court earlier this month. In Brussels, EU foreign ministers have agreed to launch a new mission in the Mediterranean to enforce the UN's arms embargo on Libya. Italy's foreign minister Luigi Di Maio said the mission would include maritime patrols, which has been a sticking point for some members. The development has been confirmed by German and the Austrian foreign ministers. Libya has been mired in violence since the ouster of longtime ruler Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. The Sudanese government and a coalition of rebel groups have extended peace talks for another 3 weeks. Earlier, both the parties had missed their 15th of February deadline to wrap up the peace talks. The Sudan Revolutionary Front, a coalition of 9 rebel groups and Khartoum representatives, signed a deal to keep negotiations going. The Revolutionary Front's Deputy Secretary General Yasir Arman said he hopes it will be the last extension for the talks. Arman added that important steps have been made to finalize a peace agreement. The peace talks, which began in South Sudan in October, aim to end conflicts in Darfur, Blue Nile and South Kordofan. It's time for a short break. I will be right back. Welcome back. In Syria, the government says it has seized most of Aleppo province as they advance their campaign to recapture Idlib. Witnesses say the forces took control of 29 villages and small towns north and northwest of Aleppo city. State media said the government army units were pushing further to advance around the city. It said the drive aims to bolster security in Syria's second largest city of Aleppo. Last week, Syrian forces seized control of the strategic M5 highway, which connects the capital Damascus to Aleppo. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has expressed concern over the situation in Idlib. In a phone call with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Trump said he would like to see Russia ceasing its support for the Syrian government. Turkey claims the Kurdistan Workers' Party has claimed 3 people in a car bomb attack in northern Syria. The defense ministry said 5 people were wounded in the blast in the Tal Abyad district. The ministry said the perpetrator was captured alive along with another terrorist who came to the area for the second attack. It said the PKK continues to kill innocent civilians in the country. The town of Tal Abyad has been held by Turkish forces and Syrian proxies since Ankara launched a military operation against the Kurdish militia last October. Yemen's government coalition says it has killed 18 Houthi rebels in the northern province of Al-Jawf. State media said the armed rebels were shot dead as they attempted to infiltrate a military zone. This came as the UN has confirmed that Yemen's warring sides have agreed to implement a major prisoner swap. In a statement, a UN envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, said both the sides will immediately begin exchanging prisoner lists for the release. The announcement follows 7 days of meetings in Amman between Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government. Yemen has been beset by violence and chaos since 2014 when the Houthis overran much of the country, including the capital, Sana'a. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's commercial flights have started using Sudan's airspace. Earlier this month, Khartoum said it had given Israeli planes initial approval to fly over its territory. Netanyahu said the new air corridor is the result of a breakthrough meeting with the Sudanese head of the ruling council, Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, in Uganda. Netanyahu said the flight marks a step towards normalization of ties with Arab and the Muslim countries.
The accumulation of power creates a new approach to Israel. And you mentioned that, Arthur. You see it in the Arab world, you go there. I've been developing contacts with the Arab countries and Muslim countries.
Israel previously considered Sudan a security threat as it suspected Iran used Khartoum to smuggle munitions to the Gaza Strip. Now moving on to China, where 105 people have died in the past 24 hours from the new coronavirus, putting the death toll at nearly 1,800. The National Health Commission says over 70,000 have been infected across the country, with 2,048 new cases emerging. More in this report.
As the Chinese government scrambles to contain the coronavirus outbreak, restrictions have been further tightened in Hubei province. Elsewhere, Americans have begun to disembark a cruise ship quarantined in the Japanese port of Yokohama. People entering the United States will be kept in quarantine for 14 days. The World Health Organization says China has done a great job dealing with the crisis.
The world truly appreciates that, and we appreciate the bravery and courage of your health workers who have demonstrated extraordinary professionalism in the face of a dangerous virus.
Showing their confidence the risk is passing, multinational companies such as L'Oreal and Toyota Boshoku are reopening their facilities.
All our employees in Shanghai are active to return to work. In addition, most of our 50 Japanese workers are in Shanghai. We believe we should go through this difficult time with China together.
The disease is now present in at least 28 other countries, with nearly 700 infections and 5 deaths outside mainland China.
In virus China, authorities continue to limit public activities in an effort to contain the novel coronavirus. This has turned online fitness classes into the latest trend as people try to stay in shape. This report has the details.
Zhang Huaya owns a successful high-end gym in Beijing, but has faced a severe financial setback because of the virus outbreak. Faced with the prospect of shutting their business down, she turned to giving classes online.
For the gyms that have high rent, it's a big hit. 1/10 of our annual income is gone. But I'm a positive person, and on the positive side, if people cultivated the habit of doing online fitness and were willing to pay for it, there might be another kind of income in the future.
Huaya's business move paid off, and appointments for her online classes are completely booked. Her clients say since they're cooped up in their homes, this is the only way they can get any exercise.
Before the outbreak, I was playing sports every day. I gained a lot of weight after giving birth to my child, but I have high demands for myself. During the outbreak, I can't go to the gym or train outside. So, I follow some trainers online and exercise at home.
The new coronavirus, thought to have emerged in a wildlife market in Wuhan City, has presented a huge challenge to the world's second largest economy.
US President Donald Trump threatened to cut off intelligence sharing with countries using equipment supplied by China's Huawei. The US Ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, says Trump phoned him from Air Force One to convey the message. At the Munich Security Conference, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has called Huawei a Trojan horse for Chinese intelligence. Last week, a US indictment charged Huawei with the theft of intellectual property. Key US allies in Europe, especially Britain and France, have said they will not stop Huawei from building 5G networks, but will impose restrictions. In Brussels, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg meets EU Justice Commissioner Vera Jourova days before the introduction of new rules to rein in US and Chinese tech companies. This comes as the social media giant released a statement of warning new regulations could threaten innovation and freedom of expression. Referring to the possibility of Brussels holding internet tech companies responsible for hate speech, Facebook said this reflects a lack of understanding of online spaces. It suggested the new frameworks should be proportionate and necessary. This comes 2 days after Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said harmful online content should be regulated. He said his company should be treated with the framework between those used for traditional media and a telecom company. A German government spokesman said members of an extremist right-wing group arrested last week were plotting large-scale attacks on mosques. The spokesman said the planned attacks would have been similar to the ones carried out in New Zealand last year. Officials said that investigations into the 12 men detained in police raids across Germany indicated they planned major attacks. German media also reported that the group aimed to launch several simultaneous mass casualty assaults on Muslims at mosques. Addressing a news conference in Berlin, the Interior Ministry spokesman said it's shocking that the cells working in the country have radicalized in such a short time. He added that anyone practicing their religion in Germany within the legal order should be able to do so without being endangered or threatened. France's former health minister, Agnès Buzyn, has been replaced by MP Olivier Véran. Buzyn stepped down from her post to save governing party's bid for Paris mayoralty after previous candidates' campaigns sank by a scandal. She will now aim to become mayor at the local elections in March that looked tough for the government. Olivier Véran is a former socialist MP who was voted MP for Isère in 2017. He is a long-standing supporter of President Emmanuel Macron. Gunmen have killed 24 people in an attack on a church in a village in northern Burkina Faso. The regional governor said 18 people were also injured in the attacks. Security officials said 5 Burkina Faso soldiers were also killed in separate incident. Officials said a group of armed terrorists raided the village in Yaga province and attacked locals. The assault occurred during the weekly service at a Protestant church. Meanwhile, French Armed Forces Ministry said a French soldier died during an operation in Burkina Faso. Gunmen have killed 22 people, including 14 children in Cameroon. The UN said unknown armed men carried out the bloodshed in the village of Ntumbo in the northwest region. The UN said a pregnant woman and several children under age 5 and 18 are among those killed. Separatists in the regions have been fighting the central government for 3 years. The conflict between Anglophone forces seeking to break away from Cameroon has claimed over 3,000 lives. Opposition parties are blaming the country's army for the massacre. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 14 people died when a lorry collided with other vehicles and hit pedestrians in the capital Kinshasa. Police say 24 others were injured. Kinshasa Public Security Chief Miguel Bagaya said the accident happened when the vehicle's brakes failed. The Health Ministry said the government will provide quality treatment to every victim. Interior Minister Gilbert Kankonde said the government will crack down on speeding vehicles on the capital's busy roads. In Peru, 8 fans of an Ecuadorian football club have died in a crash in Piura province. Officials say a bus carrying the fans went off a road and fell into a ravine near the town of Los Orangos. 37 others were injured in the accident. The crash occurred as the fans were returning from the Copa Libertadores fixture. Fatal traffic accidents are frequent in Peru because of dangerous roads. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Welcome back. Storm Dennis has swept across Britain. The army has been called out to help deal with the heavy flooding and high winds. The Government Weather Agency has issued a rare red warning across southwest England. More than 300 flood warnings are still in place across the UK. The agency said more than a month's worth of rain fell in 48 hours in places. Police said a man has died after falling into a river. South Wales police say heavy rainfall caused flooding and landslides, cutting off communities. Storm Dennis hit the UK a week after Ciara disrupted transport, flooded homes in northern England and left thousands without electricity. The United Arab Emirates said it has issued a license for a reactor at its Barakah nuclear power plant. Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan hailed the first reactor in the Arab world as a new chapter. The Crown Prince said the issuance of the license marks a new chapter in the UAE's journey for the development of peaceful nuclear energy. The Barakah plant has been due to come online in late 2017 but faced a number of delays due to safety requirements. It is located on the Gulf Coast west of the capital Abu Dhabi. The National Nuclear Regulator has now given the green light to the first of 4 reactors at the plant. It is being built by a consortium at a cost of some $24.4 billion. The NGO and Acid Violence says there were 42 acid attacks in Uganda during 2018, but the country's police have only recorded 4 such cases during that year, suggesting the majority of the attacks are unrecorded. More in this report.
The NGO and Acid Violence Uganda recorded 42 new attacks in 2018. The youngest victim was just 10 months old. Other horrifying cases include 2 sisters, aged 3 and 5. But the country's official police records show only 4 cases in that year. Most attacks do not get reported or processed, either due to fears of reprisal or because victims are too focused on mere survival and recovery. Linette Girunji, who herself is a victim of an acid attack, emphasizes the need for a specific law.
The first policy we want to include there is a non-bail policy for us, the perpetrators. These people shouldn't be bailed out. And we need the sentence to be clear.
According to UK-based NGO ActionAid, women are more often the target of acid attacks than men. It is thought that this has to do with the importance attributed in society to women's physical appearance, a means of controlling their bodies. Jennifer was attacked by a colleague in a fit of jealousy over her successful business.
You cannot walk. Every time you are home, you have to be in bedroom. You fear people to see you. If people seeing you, it's fear you. And you are crying because of the way you have pain and you're looking bad.
Acid attack victims agree legislation needs to be changed. Now these attacks are categorized under the catch-all of assault. If found guilty, some of the perpetrators walk out of the prison before the victim even leaves the hospital treatment.
In the Palestinian West Bank, an art gallery combines calligraphy with the traditional Arab music to create a scintillating blend of visual and auditory stimuli. More in this report.
A Palestinian couple has established this gallery in December 2019, selling Arabic calligraphic artwork. In the background, music from a traditional string instrument called an oud entertains art lovers.
Hadi inspired me with the idea of opening a place where we can combine what we are both interested in, which is the Arabic art, Arabic calligraphy, and Middle Eastern music. However, because the gallery or the store needs to have visual pieces, it mainly shows Arabic calligraphy.
The couple are engineers with a passion for Arabic calligraphy and music. They have found peace and satisfaction in their artistic creations. All are inscribed with ravishing calligraphy writings. Her husband helps her by playing this oud.
We combine Arabic calligraphy with music in short videos in a modern, beautiful way, which touches everyone, and from here we have shared 3 videos that tells stories based on oud and Arabic calligraphy.
Hamarshi also offers Arabic calligraphy courses. Both create videos to tell stories using artwork and music.
The decoration of Al-Dar is really nice. It is like a world by itself, not just a store that sells pieces. Her soul is in every painting. I also took a calligraphy course with her, which was amazing. She works with her heart, and I learned a lot. I'm not that experienced in calligraphy, but I had an interest in it and liked it, so I wanted to develop my own skills.
The price of a single piece ranges from $25 to $400. Such initiatives play a huge part in keeping art and culture alive in troubled parts of the world like the West Bank.
In the Russian village of Makarya near Moscow, a granny has turned 2 tons of plastic bottle caps into wall mosaics. She's decorating the walls of her home and recycling refuse from the village at the same time. More in this report.
One man's trash is another man's treasure. This is Nina Krinitsina's motto. She has used 2 tons of used bottle caps to turn her village house into an art gallery.
It calms me down, settles my nerves, especially when I was making mosaics of beans. I used to use tea beans at first and later switched over to caps. Anytime I am free, I rush to make a mosaic.
Since 2013, Krinitsina has created dozens of mosaics, some of which use over 1,000 bottle tops. Over 30 of her pieces surrounding her home are inspired by Russian fairy tales and classic Soviet cartoons.
I started making mosaics with this kitty. The kitty, then the dog, then Mashenka, a girl character, then the bear. So bit by bit, looking for schemes for artworks on the internet. When I noticed something interesting on the internet with the help of my nephew, I composed a picture.
She collects materials at a nearby landfill and used daily donations from neighbors to support her hobby.
Neighbors bring me caps, but nowadays there are waste bins in our village and everybody throws everything in there. They used to throw everything to a waste site. I did not hesitate to go to the waste site to collect caps, and neighbors would bring some, and nowadays
Christina hopes her art will encourage others to start their own projects for the good of the environment.
The The Japanese economy shrunk at its fastest rate in 5 years at the end of the last year. A rise in sales taxes, a major typhoon and weak global demand have all been blamed. The annualized gross domestic product fell by a worse than expected 6.3% in October and December. During that period, Japanese consumer spending reversed by 2.9% after the sales tax went up in October by 2%. In the last quarter, capital spending dropped by 3.7% and exports slipped marginally during the ongoing US-China trade war. There are also concerns the coronavirus outbreak will mean the slump countries into this quarter. That has raised fears the world's third biggest economy may fall into recession. General Motors is pulling out of Australia, New Zealand and Thailand and other markets that don't produce a return on its investment. In a statement, GM CEO Mary Barra said the company will reduce sales, engineering and design operations at the Holden brand in Australia and New Zealand in 2021. The US-based car giant's chief executive said GM will sell its plant at Rayong in Thailand to China's Great Wall Motors. She said General Motors will withdraw the Chevrolet brand from Thailand by the end of this year. Barra said the company wants to focus on markets where it can grow strong returns. She said General Motors will support its employees and customers in the transition. The chief executive said GM will honor its warranties in those and will continue providing spare parts and servicing. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Thanks for watching.